Perfect. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
All right, good. I'm glad I can.
Could you say your name and what group you sang with?
Okay, Don Davis. I go by my full name, Donald Hubert Davis, and we sang with the Drakes. We started in high school, I guess, and just all around Richmond, Indiana, Indianapolis, Dayton, Cincinnati, and I think Muncie a time or two around where Ball State. I don't know if you ever heard of Ball State Teachers College. I don't know. Some of it's all faded away, but as we talk about it, certain things start coming back to me again that we did. Ball State was where David Letterman used to be on the night show and all that. I don't know if you're too young for that, but maybe you saw some of it. But he was from Ball State also. We probably crossed paths with him, but at that time he was like he's trying to make it and all that stuff too. So he wasn't anybody then, nor were we. We would sing, and of course, one week it was our turn to sing, and the next week we'd go and there would be another little group there trying to sing. And I did a little of that when I went in the Army in, 58, I guess it was. And I did run around, met a few guys. Perkins and I went in together on the buddy plan. And there was a couple of other guys supposed to go with us, but we weren't quite ready to go yet. And they went ahead right out of high school and went on in. One guy went in the Air Force and got in the Marines, but Perkins and I went in the Army. And we stayed together all through the military. And we sang a lot we started little groups down in Nashville, Tennessee. Right, we were at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So that's only about an hour's drive from Nashville, Tennessee. And I remember, let's see, what was the name of that group? Daggone it, I can't think of them now. Oh, boy. And we start singing with them. And Who Wears Short Shorts? I remember that song. I don't know if you...
The Royal Teens.
Yeah, is that who they were? Yeah. And there was a guy that I sang with, Herb Brathwaite. He was from New York City. And he kept bugging me, said, well, why don't you come to New York and we can make records and all this. But he got out of the service before I did. And I kept saying I'd look him up someday when I got out. I never made it up there. And I was trying to think of that group down there in Nashville, though. They had one thing I was fascinated with, and they had one of their guitar players was left-handed. I think, who was with the Beatles is left-handed, isn't he?
Yeah, Paul McCartney.
Paul is left-handed, yeah, and I have very few. You don't see that many that are good. You might see guys that bong, bong, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. But I was trying to think of that girl. That girl, she could sing that song too. Oh, it hit me after a while. My whole life, I tell people all the time, they say, how'd you get into music? I said, well, when I started in kindergarten, my favorite, I had a hard time except for I enjoyed kindergarten, playtime, or recess, they called it in school, recess, and singing. Other things didn't matter to me. They was talking math, English, science. But then as I got a little older, they called it physical education. But I called it playtime. So I always enjoyed singing. They had a little thing we could do in the morning. If we got to school early by 7 o'clock, classes didn't start to 8. But if you come in around 7 o'clock, you could go over and play band. And this was like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And at that time, I didn't play an instrument or anything. But the music teacher said, well, can you play the drums? And I had the bass drum, boom, boom. And the one song I remember practicing on, and I kept messing it up, but she let me keep on doing it. Ferris, Lord Jesus, Ferris, Lord Jesus. Yeah. And I boom, 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 boom. So, but I've always liked being in music. And then on into high school, and we sang the choir at high school. But when I got out of high school, I didn't have the leadership or guidance. These guidance are supposed to help you get into the thing where you have some background. What turns out, my cousin had just graduated from dental school. Well, it was my mother's cousin. And they said, well, why don't you go to dental school? Why don't you become a dentist? And I thought it was like becoming a plumber or a car or whatever. And so I go in to talk to the counselor, And he said, "Oh, you want to be a dentist?" And I said, "Well, you need biology, chemistry, and all." I said, "What? What?" And I didn't even have a music class then. Music appreciation, I think I took that or something as a required, But I never really got any professional training in music other than what I did on my own. And of course, I sang a lot with the group, and oftentimes we sang at churches also. Go ahead, you had some questions or comments?
I guess you said you got into music when you were in 4th, 5th grade, right?
Yeah.
Was it because of your parents or relatives, or?
Well, I did play the piano. I took piano lessons, I should say. And that was always tied in. My dad he used to say, "Why you always got to sing those doo-wop, boop, 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 and all? Why don't you sing a good Christian music?" And I said, "Dad, these kids don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They still don't want to hear it, but some of them made a lot of success with it." But anyway, that's how I just always, and I had 2 older brothers and younger brothers, and we were like stair steps. So we were always, when any family gatherings or anything, "When you boys sing a song." And one of the songs we used to sing a lot was "No Man is an Island." I don't know if you've ever heard that song. And I know I presented it to our group at church a couple of times. "Where'd you get that song? Where'd you learn it?" And I learned it in high school. My older brothers both sang in the choir there. And then when I came through high school, I started singing, and they always sang that song. So we started singing it, and of course we sang it in harmony. And again, people used to say, "You boys ought to record those songs." Well, where you record? What do you mean?
So you were in the choir in high school, and is that how you met those guys to form the Drakes, or how did you form?
Yeah, well, Perk and I guess Warren and I knew each other almost from day one. His mother and my mother were very close. And I can't remember when he and I first started running together and everything, but he liked to sing. He had a great voice. I used to tell him, I'd say, "Warren, you should be soloing." He, "No, I want to sing bass." He wanted to sing the bass all the time. But then Jimmy Jett was younger than us, but his brother had did a lot of singing with my older brothers. And so he just kind of tagged along in that. And I guess Perk and I, we met up mostly in high school. And then, like I said, when we graduated, we both decided, we made a commitment to each other. We were going to go through service together. And it was a funny thing, too, because my brothers when they were in service, they all got one to Germany, one was in Korea. And I thought we were getting mustered out of the service. And they call us in for trying to get you organized, get you ready for civilian life. And at the end of the convocation or the talk, the warrant officer says, "Now, you boys got any questions? You young men have any questions?" I said, "Yeah, I got one. Why? Why didn't I ever get sent overseas?" And he said, "Well, let me look at your records." And he said, "Oh," he said, "you came in on the buddy plan, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "With Bill Perkins?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you see the way that buddy plan works, you have to both be in agreement." Well, Perkins said he didn't want to go overseas. And I said, "You're right." I was so upset because I kept dreaming of the day I'd go to Germany or somewhere like that. And then we never made it because he didn't want to go. But like I said, we used to get together, though. We'd go to Nashville together. He had a car down there. I'm still trying to think of that song as we're talking here, but I cannot think of the group, and they were great. I know you'll know the group as soon as I mention, if I could think of let's see, how'd that song go? Gee whiz, gee whiz, look at her eyes, gee whiz, what a prize. She's awful nice, it's paradise, I hope I'm not her decoy. And
was it the trio?
I think it was a girl and 2 brothers or something like that. They had a lot of guitars with them and everything. We'd see them at these clubs, and every now and then they'd ask me to sing along with, and we did. But we just fun stuff, But they were really good. I still try to sing that. So we sang it a couple of times ourselves. It's called Gee Whiz, and maybe you'll find it somewhere.
It's a great song.
Another funny thing about it, my brother Mike, and he's younger. He's a year younger than me. Mike passed already, but he said, you know, Don, he says people used to always, or we used to try to sing like our parents used to tell us about the Mills Brothers. I don't know if you ever heard the Mills Brothers. Okay, yeah. And that was before our time, obviously, my time anyway. And it was more my parents. They were crazy about the Mills Brothers. And Mike said, yeah, we used to try to sing like them guys, and we sounded pretty good because we always had good harmony. And he said, now we're starting to look like them, though, because we were getting older. And, you know, I remember one time we were having a family gathering back home in Richmond, Indiana, and different people knew we were in. I was in town, and my brothers, of course, were already. We all got together as a family gathering, and we started singing and joking and playing, having a good time and all that. And finally, a couple other guys showed up. I forget, maybe Warren was one of them. And there were a couple girls that sang with us sometime. They were the Stone Sisters. And anyway, Wanda and Mary, I think. Anyway, they said, well, come on, let's go out and sing now. So we went out in the yard, and it's dark out there. We're out there singing. And the guy next door had just gotten off of work, I guess, and he decided he was going to cut his grass. And I said, boy, that guy's got a lot of nerve. I said, hey, Mr. Moore, can you stop cutting grass for a while? He said, well, what's the matter? I said, we're out here trying to sing, and you're cutting grass. We can't even hear ourselves. And he said, you guys are nuts. Come the next day, he fussed with my dad about it. My dad said, well, I told him it was all right, but I didn't know he was out there cutting your grass.
That's funny.
Yeah. But that Wanda, she played the piano for us a lot of times. And I'm trying to think of what was that song we sang? Henry Ford. I don't know if they ever recorded that song or not.
What year was that?
That was somewhere back in the late 50s, early 60s. But it was Henry Ford, he's got a fine car, General Motors. Ooh, they got Cadillacs, but I love my baby the way she is, and I love the way she walks. Well, I got a gal, she's sweet 21. She likes to break my back. I'm getting old, you can tell. I like to take that girl for a ride, but I ain't got a Cadillac. And here's Warren in the bass. And that was a fun song. We sang that. But that one girl that played the piano, she's the one that kind of created that song. And I don't know if it was ever recorded anywhere, but.
So you had the Stone Sisters, and then you had the Drakes, and you guys kind of mingled together and sang
Not
together?
the Stone Sisters that much, but they both had talents too, though. But just whenever they'd find out we were in town and we'd maybe go to a party or something, they were there. We never really entertained, together. But Wanda, she was a younger one that was in my class. Her sister was about a year or two ahead of us, but she played by ear, and she was really good. And she did a lot of in church. Her family was always in a church, so. But that was through high school, and then, as I said, once we were through school.
You guys all went your separate ways?
Well, Perk stayed in town for a while there, and he and I went in the service together. But we got out. I went to Ball State in Muncie, Indiana, and he went to Earlham College. It's a Quaker school right there in Richmond, Indiana. And every once in a while, like I said, we'd come out there and we'd sing together out there or whatever. And he ended up going to after he quit school, and he went to, I think it was Chicago or like that for a while at some club up there, and he was singing. He was a big fan of Frank Sinatra and all that. And I started listening to Johnny Mathis for a while back, right when we had been singing for a while. And if I found he was going to be somewhere, and of course, he's still around singing, I guess. He shows up.
I think he just retired, I think.
Did he finally?
Like 90-something.
Yeah, I saw pictures of him. He kind of, we all get old, man. We all get old, Right.
So I guess getting back to you guys' form, What kind of brought you guys together? Just the shared love of the music?
That was mainly it. Yeah, mainly it. And we found out that, there was all kind of groups going. Of course, the Jackson, was Michael Jackson, and them they were growing at that time, too. They were getting bigger up there. We were in the top part of, they were up in Gary, Indiana. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know some of the other groups that were around. And, of course, we would hear them, the Moonglows.
Were those your inspirations?
Yeah, yeah. And then there was a restaurant there in our community that it was the only black one of any quality at all. We'd go by there after school and put the money in the jukebox and listen to them play and sing and play and sing. And then we'd start copying them, singing their songs. And I don't know why, on the backside of that record, we had this Larry Roan and Jones. They played this little thing and they called Kitty. Yeah. And I think Warren had conned them into doing that song. And they kept saying, well, what are we going to get out of the deal? So you guys are going to make this record. What about us? And he said, well, we'll let you play on the flip side. But we had some real good songs we could have put on the flip side of that. Probably would have been better than Ooh, We're So Good.
Was it stuff you guys had written?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember the titles?
Well, I can remember. One of them was What Makes My Heart Turn Upside Down, and my head goes spinning, 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 round and round. It only happens when I'm with you, or something like that. I don't know. And it was real good harmony on that song. And we'd go some places to sing, and we'd sing maybe 2 or 3 songs, and we'd get paid like $100 or something. And we thought, wow, this is great. And Warren first thing said, well, come on, let's go get some beer, man. Come on. I said, no, we don't do that. But anyway, then they'd want us to come back and sing that song. And I was trying to sing, the teenagers. We sang Why Do Fools Fall in Love. And
you sang lead on that?
Yes. And then we sang that. They were in Dayton once, though, but Perk sang the lead on a song we did over there. I think it was, Hey, Little Girl of Mine, hey, little girl of mine. Oh, gee, you sure look fine. Because you're my loving baby, you will always be. That's the way it was meant to be, oh, yeah. We sang that one, and I don't think we got first place. They get a trophy or something. But, yeah, we did that, and then I'm Not a Know-It-All. That's one of the other ones the teenagers did. Do, 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 do. Warren would sing that bass. Boy, he could sing that bass. And one of the funny things that we did, though, and I wish we would have recorded that one, too. We had a lot of fun together, obviously. But I don't know if it was, Warren or somebody had just gotten married. And we were, Perk and I had just gotten out of the service, and this must have been in the early 60s. And there was a show on TV called Fritz the Night Owl. And that was, I think he was out of Cincinnati or Indianapolis. And he'd come on at 11 o'clock at night. And we sang this little song. Warren made it up. I don't know where he got it from. And it said, how to start out. Somebody would start out sounding like imitating an owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Here comes the night owl walking through the front door.
Oh, yeah. Tony Allen recorded that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, see, you know more about it than I do. But we sang that and that was just for us. But we never, I don't know. We might have gone out and sang a couple of times at there was a place in Richmond, too, my hometown there, called Beechwood. And that's where most of the people of color would get together 2 or 3 times a year for dances. And my father's cousin was a saxophone player. I forget the name of their group, but they always played, and he'd always let us, hey, we're playing at Beechwood, so you guys going to come out and sing with us? And we did. That was the other one we used to go sing, and I don't know who recorded it. Crazy Little Mama.
Oh, yeah, the El Dorados.
Is that who it was? Okay, see.
At my front door.
Yeah. Crazy little mama come knocking at my front door. Crazy little mama come knock. And then Warren again, do-do-wah, do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, it's all coming back now.
So
I'm glad you came by. And because a lot of these songs, I talk to people, my kids about them, and they say, "Dad, who ever heard of them?" I said, and I didn't have any kind of a record collection or anything. I just,
Yeah, just sang.
just sing and let other people record it. Yeah.
So you said it was Bill that came up with the name The Drakes?
Warren.
Oh, Warren came.
Warren did that. The bass singer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy on the end here, and he's the one that got us also. And I think we got him on now. There's majoring. Are those all? I can't tell if those are majoring collar. We just got on white shirts.
Yeah, those are white shirts.
But we had these. They were like broadcloth, and they had a gold thing around it, like a Nehru collar, and they had gold around the top of the collar, and it had gold buttons on them.
Wow.
And there was this little store there in Richmond called Rocco's. And Warren went down there, I guess, and talked the guy into ordering them for us. And we all had to wear those shirts. And we wore them probably 2 or 3 times. And then guys started wearing them out on the streets. And where's your shirt? How come you don't have it? Oh, this girl said, so he gave her his shirt. And I said, crazy nuts.
So you guys used to perform in those uniforms?
Yeah. But I think, for Footlights, I don't know if we had them for Footlights or not, because we're still in high school then. And it was after we come out of school. We all had a little job somewhere, either car wash or shoe shine or washing windows or sweeping floors or something,
So you guys are in high school, and how did you guys get that recording contract with Conquest?
Well, I don't know how Warren hooked up with the guy, and the guy was Matt. His last name was Whitlock. I think that's on the label. I'm not sure, Whitlock, and it was in Indianapolis, and we loaded up. And Jones, the other guy that sang with us, he didn't sing with. He played the bass fiddle.
Yeah.
The tall thing.
Yeah.
And then Larry Roan was, I said, the white boy that was on the guitar. And Harold Jones, Jones had to have his drums. So there was about 3 carloads of us left Richmond. And Indianapolis is about 70 miles from Richmond. And we went to the studio over there, and we there for most of the day. And then somebody called and said, "Hey, there's a group out at such and such, and they want you guys to come out. And we're going to have a contest between the 2 groups." And
that was right after the session?
Well, yeah. We were getting ready to head back home. Perkins drove. His girlfriend that's right. He was in college now because his girlfriend's parents had given her a car to drive while she was down there. So there was 2 or 3 of us in the car with him. Foster almost had to have a car by himself with that big bass. You can't. There's only one way to do it. And then Jones had to have his drums. So I think there were 3 or 4 carloads of us. We got stopped by the police somewhere, and we didn't get. I guess he said we were either speeding or driving erratic or something. I thought, oh gosh, and it's like early in the day. And I think it was a Saturday too. But we made it through that all right.
What year was that?
I can't tell you because
late 50s.
50s, yeah, late 50s, yeah, mid 50s, I should say, because before I went into service. I went into service in 58, so it must have been right out of high school. Yeah, right out.
56, 57-ish?
I graduated in 56. Perk and I did. Warren, like I said, Warren. And I guess I stopped listening to him too much because Warren always had these wild ideas. He wanted. Our high school was kind of like on a boulevard, and there was a Whitewater River below where our high school was. In fact, one year I wasn't in high school then, but our high school went from the 10th grade to the 12th grade, and a deer got into our school building. And they surmised that this deer had been run along the Whitewater River coming out of southern Indiana. And you've probably seen things like that in your community, especially up there with all them lakes you got.
Oh, yeah.
And the deer got into our school, and it's running through there, and a couple guys on the football team finally captured it. And it had already cut itself, and there's blood everywhere, and the girls were crying and screaming, don't hurt him, and all this. I heard all kind of stories about it, but. But anyway, we we had a lot of fun while I was in high school, and we, like I said, we every now and then when they didn't want us singing in the library because we'd want to go in there and practice, and they said, "We go outside and sing." We said, "We can't do that. They won't let us be out in the hall. We got to stay in the classroom." So we figured out something. But anyway, every time we have some kind of assembly, they'd always want us to sing, and sometime the choir that I was in, we'd go to Cincinnati to sing as a high school choir. And then the choir director, he'd have our group sing a song while we were there.
Did you do like rock and roll music? Or?
Oh yeah, and most of ours was a cappella too.
Yeah.
And that was when somebody would finally give us a couple of microphones, and then we kept saying, "Well, no, you stand over," and we'd take 5 minutes before we could sing because, "No, you sitting over here. Well, you got the mic."
Mm-hmm.
It was comical to us. It was serious, but the fans are out there, "Come on, sing. We don't want to hear you doing all this move." Now I'd get ready to stand over here and with this mic, and then Jimmy Jeff said, "Well, I got that high tenor part. I want to hear it too." So, but
At shows like that, like what was your favorite songs to sing?
Probably "Ooh, We So Good," and of course we start singing our song. There was a record store there in Richmond. People of color owned it. Kelly's, the last name was Kelly and Bass. They had a record store there, and they had our records there. And of course we'd go and say, "Give me 10 of them." And they'd say, "Well, I said, get to see our manager, Whitlock. See him, he'll pay you for them." But he told us we should pass them out. So we'd go out and the girls would come, "Can we have your record? Can you sign it?" And all this stuff, And of course, that was big time for us. Now, some of the big groups, that was,
There's nothing.
Yeah, that was small potatoes to them. But I was just thinking some of the other songs we sing, "Ooh, we so good," and then we sang "What Makes My Heart Go Up, Down, Down," and my head goes spinning, spinning, spinning. That was one of the favorites. "Who Wears Short Shorts?" I don't know. I can't think of a lot of the songs we'd sing. I don't keep any real notes of it every once in a while. Now, of course, Perkins died last year about this time. And did you ever talk to Martell Winburn? No. I gave you that name, didn't I?
I don't believe so.
Martell Winburn he became a pastor there in Richmond, Indiana, and he and Perkins became pretty close. And I know when both my younger brothers died, they both came to the funeral together. And Mike died, I think he was only about 72, 73, and Tim died when he was about 75 or 76. And I said, "Man, I better be careful here. I just had a birthday, and I thank God I'm still kicking." And I have that one brother older than me. He's 80. He's 88 now, and I'm 87. And every once in a while, I get to tell him, my wife say, "No, you're not 86 anymore. You're 87 now. You just had a birthday." But, your mind starts getting away from you.
So I guess quickly going back to that recording session, how was that experience walking into the studio for the first time?
Well, it was, it was just whatever it was. We didn't know what to expect or how it was to go. And we sang the song about 3 or 4 times before everybody was happy with it. And it was a new experience for all of us. And of course, Whitlock, he lived on Yandy Street somewhere there in Indianapolis. He had a business. I don't even know what kind of business he was in, but he must have had a little money, and he saw these things happening. But the other crazy thing, and I don't know why I didn't pursue it, but see, I went to Detroit and stayed one summer, probably 60 or 61. And of course, that's when Detroit was exploding with all these musical groups and everything. Well, the funny part about it, my cousin, who was the dentist, his brother-in-law was also a dentist, and their father-in-law, because they married sisters, and he was down in Nashville one year at Christmas time. And there's this black school down there called Fisk University, Fisk. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Oh, you have heard of that school. Anyway, the father's down there, and he couldn't get fly out of there. He was a dentist also, and he was making lots of money. He had his office in Hamtramck, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. Anyway, he couldn't get out of there, so he started hanging around the school a little bit, and they had a little radio station right there in the school. And so he started asking about how's this thing work, how do you do this, how do you do that, and all. So to make a long story short, he got back to Detroit ultimately, and his two sons-in-laws and him, they formed WCHB, which is a radio station. They're defunct now because they each of the two of them, of course the father ultimately died. His name was, what was this? I forget his last name now. But they, Barry Cox, Wendell Cox, and Barry, and my cousin's last name was Bass B. That's where the WCHB. But anyway, they all had children. Their children they just want the money and get out of the business. And but they were very strong in that. And while I was up there, instead of me trying to get and follow up in the music, I was an old friend of mine. I grew up in high school, no, way before high school. He lived next door to me when I was in kindergarten, first grade. We went to school together. He found out I was there, and he wanted me. We were running all over town, meeting all his old, and he was running the streets up there. And I didn't know any better. I didn't care. And then after I thought about it one day, I said, well, why didn't we try to get into music while I was over? Why didn't I invite the guys to come up? We could have recorded something, but we didn't. We didn't do it. Yeah. So the rest is history that doesn't amount to anything.
It's interesting too. A lot of people that like your record, they were wondering why you guys only recorded that one side and had that instrumental flip. And you kind of mentioned it, but could you say that story of why that happened again?
Well, the guys, we wanted to go over and record, and they would often just come to practice with us and that, and then we said we were going to make this record. And they said, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, we want to do it. But what, are we going to make any money out of it? No, we're just going to sell the records, I guess, and whatever we get off the records. And so we didn't kidnap them or anything, but Jones was younger than us, and so was Foster that played the bass. And they had a group in high school also, but they would play jazz. My younger brother Mike and another fella, they would come in during the footlights. The show would last about an hour, and it was about all kind of groups that that perform in the footlights. But they just wanted the experience of it also. And this Whitlock guy, I don't know where, I remember he sitting in a big cigar and, well, sing it again then. If the engineers and all this, I don't know what it was costing him to do all this stuff. And I don't think we found out for maybe a month or two before we actually had a copy of the record. And I never, I was so excited about us being on that front side of that thing that I never paid that much attention to the other side of it. But then one day I started talking to a different one. I said, why didn't we put one of our songs on the back of there that we're singing, and why did we have to put them on? And they said, well, that's why Warren told me this, or Perk told me, somebody told me that. They were complaining. They said, well, why don't we get highlighted in this thing? I said, well, they never do. Once they get a name, they are, people find out who they are and all that. And so it all worked out for us. But to this day, I regret that we didn't put one of our songs that we were really good on.
Do you wish which?
Oh, the other one was Earth Angel. We did by the Penguins, and I sang lead on that. Man, I mean, we had my wife's in there, so I can't. But we had them girls crying and screaming for us. And, sing it again, please sing it again. I said, no. And the music director, we'd go out there and we'd clap, the ones keep clapping, they wouldn't let us, and we'd go out and we'd sing it again, or sing another song. And he said, that's it. And then we're on there Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But, and what you going to do? You're going to tell them, no, we're going to sing our song anyway. Well, he'd have probably got kicked out of school and everything else, if we'd done that. I want to tell you about Warren, though, and he's not around anymore. But Warren come to me one day and said, and somewhere along the line, I don't know where it came from, And you know how when you're young like that, you pick up things. Warren, we called him Dago. We didn't call him Warren very often. And we just called Perkins. And he liked for us to call him Ricky, though, for some reason. He wanted to be called Ricky. Well, they handled me with Tobias, just like you've heard the name before, I'm sure. I don't know whether we saw a movie, and there was a guy in the movie named Tobias, and they said he reminded them of me. But anyway, and they used to call me Tay. Hey, Tay, 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 Tay. Now, as a matter of fact, I got a future brother-in-law named Tay that we call him Tay. But he's not Tobias. But anyway, that's how I got that name. But I don't know. Warren, one of the things he did, he came to me, he said, hey, Tay. He said, it was probably not this time of the year because school was in session. Beautiful day and everything. Like I said, the Whitewater River ran below our school. He said, I tell you what we're going to do, man. I said, what are we going to do? He said, we're going to sign up. We'll go for our home run class. I usually have 2 classes early in the morning when we first, and then our homeroom would be the next hour. And that was a free hour. Well, at the free hour, he said, we're just going to leave school. Well, we're going to go down. He said, you know, they say there's a bunch of chickens down there that run wild down there in that Whitewater River. So what? You know, and I'm yeah. And here we are, and we dressed for high school. We dressed about like you are now. You know, we had these shoes they called Jarmans. They had a white double stitch all the way around them, great big clodhopper shoes looking, and we set the trend there. But anyway, we were all dressed up, and he said we're going to go down there and we're going to catch us a chicken. And he said we'll build a fire, and we'll find an old can down there or something. And he said, have you ever been down there? I said, no, I don't go down there. What do I go down there for? And he said, well, we'll find something, man. Come on. And that's what he's like, come on, Tay, come on. So we go down and ran around down there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours and getting all muddy and dirty in our nice clothes. I wore flannel pants to school. And nevertheless, we both ended up got kicked out of school for one more day. After we had a dean of boys. He said, where are you guys? What happened to you guys yesterday? I said, well, we made up some story. I forget, we had to do something. Warren talked me into going with him, and Warren said we had to go help his dad or do something. And he said, well, guys, he said, that doesn't sound very right. That doesn't sound right at all. So why don't you take another day out of school, and for all your work for today, you're going to get an F in class for it. And but we called him Rocky Coons. He kicked us out of school for not only that day, we were already out anyway. And but then when the truth came out, or what we told him was the truth, he said, well, just take another day out and think about it. So, but Warren, he and I had a printing class together, too, in high school. And we would, you're supposed to walk down the hall to get to your classroom. And I can see that old teacher now. He'd say, what are you doing? And Warren would say, Don, you go in first and open it. He had a fire escape door for his classroom. He said, I'm not going in the hallway. I want to come in that fire escape door. And he'd come in, he done walked all the way across, and he'd come in, he had mud or something all over his shoes. And the shop teacher, he said, you get out of here, go clean your shoes off. But we even had a cooking class together, too.
He sounded like a fun character.
Oh, he was. He was always, and like I said, we had to read the book of, that's my daughter of it. You there, Jan? Maybe she'll get it downstairs, I hope. Yeah, she got it. But anyway, what was I talking about?
Warren.
Warren is
muddy shoes and the
muddy shoes. Yeah, he got us there. And then I was trying to think of another thing I was going to tell you about. But as far as the singing would go, and we had a cooking class together, and that was unbelievable. Some of the things we ended up with there, and he'd say, you have certain things you're supposed to put in there, and some of the guys were taking it seriously. They wanted to go and become cooks. That's probably what we should have done, paid attention, but we didn't. But we'd be over in the corner just singing some song or something that he and I would make up as we go. He said, you guys can't do that. I said, yes, we can. Didn't you hear us do it? We was doing it. We've been doing it all year. You can't do it. And he said, that's what I'm telling you. You can't do that. You got to stop it. Oh, I said, I thought you said we couldn't do it. We knew, like we didn't know how to do it. I said, no, we know how to do it. Yeah, so there you go.
So it seems like you guys are like campus celebrities.
Oh, we were. But you know, we had a race riot in our school. And that was some tough stuff.
While you were there?
Yeah. And I didn't know all this until recently. I found out some stuff about our school, or about schools at that time. And what it was, our athletic department, like the basketball team, you can have people of color on your team, but you can't have them all three playing at the same time. It'd be one at a time. Can be out there on the floor playing. And it went on into the football team and et cetera. And of course, some of the best athletes were usually people of color. And finally it got to the point where some of the girls started wanting to date, white girls wanted to date people of color. And the guys didn't like it. Well, the long and short though, what happened was, one day, right while all this was going on, there were some little skirmishes and whatnot. And I remember I was in my senior year at that time, and my oldest brother had just gotten out of the military, and I used to wear his boots to school, and I'd wear his web belt. And I would wear two belts. I'd wear my regular belt, and I'd wear a web belt over it. And I thought, boy, who is this guy? We don't mess with him. But anyway, what happened was the basketball coach, his son played on the team, and he was a white man, and his son played like a person of color. I mean, he dribbled like the Globetrotters, the Harlem Globetrotters. I got some Kleenex over here somewhere if you need one. You need it.
Okay.
Anyway, his son would pass the ball behind his back, dribble between his legs. Well, they said he acts too much like them. And he said, what do you mean? And so he got fired. They fired him. So we ended up going down, all the students said, we're walking out. So we go down to Assembly Hall. No, we go down to Gymnasium. We're down there, but half the student body's down there. And we decided, well, we're going to go to City Hall, where the superintendent of schools is about like going, probably 2 or 3 miles from our school. So there we go, probably 150, 200 of us. Most of the kids stayed in school, but we didn't. And we go all the way down there. Well, we get down there, and out of it, we all of a sudden, we all start coming together again as one student body. There wasn't the people of color over here and white kids over here. Because that's what happened when we went at lunchtime. They didn't want us to sit in the same seats with them and all this stuff. So, but by that, walking out and walking all the way down, they had newspapers, cameras down there and taking pictures, and the superintendent came, well, we're looking into this, and boo, the kids were booing and all. Once again, we got Fs for that day. We missed school. I ended up with an A- in choir because the guy said, I got to give you a bad grade for that day, and that's going to get you down to A-.
That's a pretty incredible story, though.
It is.
Especially during that period.
Oh, yes. But see, we'd never had any problems before. Never had problems before. And a lot of it was blown up, too. It made it sound like we were all but kidnapping these white girls. And it wasn't that way at all. They were more or less kidnapping some of us,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we got through it, and today, I love going home. But matter of fact, I haven't been home now. My parents are both passed, and I lived in the same house all my life. My brothers and I were born and raised in this one house, and our whole neighborhood was all the guys we grew up with, and most of them are gone now. All my brothers are gone. I had 2 sisters. I had one sister left, and she lives in Dayton, Ohio. And she was the baby of the family. So a lot of stuff that we did, it was gone by the time she got to high school. So, but I remember a time or two, though, we'd get up there and we'd get to singing and carrying on, and Mom would say, I'll tell you one thing, she said, you boys always run out and buy that beer. She said, why don't you ever think of us women? I said, what do you mean, Mom? She said, well, why don't you go buy some pop or Cokes? He said, women, we like to drink too. We don't want to drink that old nasty beer. But that's the kind of problems you get when you go home. You know, you got to behave yourself around your mom. So
that's where you guys used to rehearse at your house?
Yeah, we'd rehearse there a lot, and also at Jimmy Jett's house. And Perk though, that guy, boy, he was something else. And I'll tell stories on him now. But we'd be ready to go practice. And he lived in a house that was like the servants' quarters, I guess, behind Perk's. Perk lived here, and him and his wife. And I said, well, Jimmy, where's Perk? He said, well, he's in there getting ready. I said, well, let's go. So we'd go to his house, and his mom would say, he's in the bathroom. And this guy had a ritual that he went through. And he'd have to gargle, and then he'd take Q-tips and clean it. He said, well, that's why I can't hit them notes. And he always, he's always rubbing his nose, too. And he wore white socks because he had some kind of, and we used to call him White Socks. He'd get dressed up, have on a certain tie and everything, but he had, I guess, athlete's foot or something. I don't know why. It was probably a very bad situation he had. But his doctor told him to wear white socks, and that's what he would wear, you know.
So he would have this big ritual just before rehearsing?
Yeah. And then, of course, Warren started, come on, man, just take one swallow, Don, take one swallow. And I would every once in a while, but one night I remember taking some, boy, and I walked out there and I thought, whoa, where am I? And, I tried to stay away from that stuff, though. Yeah. But we had a lot of fun together, though. And I've enjoyed just sitting here talking to you about it because, that's all faded away from me. It's been over, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And matter of fact, I went to one high school reunion in 86, and that was 30 years after I graduated. And a lot of the guys that I graduated with they're gone already. I said, you're too gone. How could you be dead already, man? I'm just now starting. But I left that world and I got into retailing.
You mentioned earlier that after you guys made the record, you guys were leaving and then you had to do a contest?
Oh, yeah, several. We had, anytime we could, we'd get into them.
Well, I guess what memories do you have from those shows at all? Do you remember?
And they all kind of run together. I'd probably give you the wrong names or the wrong songs or something, but it was fun while it lasted. But the problem was that, like, one guy was married and had a little kid. He either had one or one on the way. So he was Jimmy. And the last time I saw Jimmy, he had on a white suit like Colonel Sanders. He was at his down in his matter of fact, his daughter lived a couple doors down from my mom. And my daughter and a couple of my cousins that were there also, they said, who is that, Grandpa? Who is that man? Because he and I were laughing and talking, joking and all that. But he had a complete white suit, looked like Colonel Sanders. And I said, well, that's the black Colonel Sanders. Y'all didn't know that? They said, oh, we didn't know there was a black one. But anyway, he got married, and then Warren took off, went to California, got in the movies a little bit. But then he got out there, typical Warren. They said what had happened. He'd been having trouble with his heart. And he said he finally got out of the hospital. And they're on their way home, taking him home, his wife and a couple kids, I guess, by now. And he said, well, let's stop and get some chicken. And they said, well, there's a place right across the street. He said, I'll go get it. He went running across to get that chicken and fell down out in the middle of the street, gone. And he was only, I don't know, he probably wasn't 20, I don't know, late 20s. If he was 20 years old, I don't know. He was that had to be somewhere in the 70s. So, 14 years later, he was 18, 28, so about 30, maybe he's in his 30s. And then Perk, like I said, Perk and I stayed together and went in the Army together. And we sang a couple things at the NCO club and the different places like that. And it was just a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We didn't care too much for money.
Mm-hmm. Always you guys had fun.
Well, I want to tell you one more funny story. Can you handle another one?
Yeah.
My oldest brother, Jack, I don't know if I got a picture of him. No, I don't have a picture down here, I don't think. Anyway, he decided he was going to be our manager. And so that was great. Well, Warren's cousin who lived, his family lived here, and his cousin's family, they lived upstairs. We had a suitcase, and she put sparkling on it, and spelled out the name of the Drakes, Drakes. Well, I don't know if you've ever tried printing something and you're writing it or something, and you get your letters mixed up. And she had them mixed up. And I didn't even notice it. We got there, and she's walking in my brother's walking, our manager, he's walking in with our suitcase, and I looked, and it didn't say Drake's, it said Darkies. And then, we thought about it, we laughed about it. And here we are trying to be like, we're cool, man. We got a briefcase, got a manager, and he's got a little name on the side of the thing. I said, well, and then we went in another room and took all that stuff off. But she was trying to help us. She said, I fixed up your suitcase for you. And my brother we had a couple pieces of paper in there. I don't think he had, because it was all in our heads. We had an idea what songs we were going to do. But it turned out right. But that was down in Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. But I'll tell you some of the stories. I've seen some of these guys in these movies on TV. Some of the groups are on there, and my wife said, "Isn't that?" I said, "Oh, Jan, you should." That's some of the stuff I went through with our group. There was no envious. We weren't no jealousy or anything like that. If anything, I try to get the other guys to sing lead sometime, and they go, "Oh no, you sing, man. I don't want to sing lead. I get too scared. I don't like doing that." But that's the one thing now. Even in my career in the penny company, because we had to, as a store manager, you got anywhere from 50 to 75, 200 people working for you at one time, and you got to stand before them and make presentations and whatever. Now, when I do that, it took me a while to get used to doing that. But when it comes to singing, I'd get up and sing in front of anybody. Never got, because I love to sing, love music. Oftentimes, my wife said, "Why? I always got to have music." I got little Alexis over here. I get up every morning. She said, "Hello, Mr. D," and I listen. I listen to classical piano music because I can read. I can read my Bible, or read a book or story or something like that. I don't want anything that's going to draw me to, because I'll be sitting there singing the song with blah blah blah.
Do you remember the lyrics to "Ooh Wee So Good"?
Oh yeah. Makes you want to holler, "Gosh, oh baby G, ooh wee, ooh wee." And then say, I never danced to the mambo. Then I met this chick who could. And then she taught me how to do the mambo. Now they call me the mambo kid or something. I don't know where that came from.
And you guys all wrote that song, or you wrote the song?
Well, they kept, Warren was all, do-do-do-do, ooh wee so good, do-do-do-do. And then we started just adding little bits to it, and I just put it all together. There's probably a whole lot more, and it's unfortunate that the guys are not around to support me and add to it or whatever, or challenge me on it. But they're all gone now, so and all we're left with is memories, Mm-hmm. But you can choose your own happiness, whatever turns you on. You can lie to the world, or you can lie to yourself. But truth always is always a good defender for you. But I can't think of much else to say. But it all just came together for us, and we enjoyed it while we could. I wish we would have done more. And I don't know if there's anybody even around Richmond there other than this Martell Winburn. He still lives there. And he was a retired preacher now. And I was trying to think of anybody. But see, I haven't been home. I haven't been back to Richmond. My mom lived to be 96.
Wow.
And my dad died at 81, though. We came up here in 90, and he died about 2 months after we moved here, down in Indiana. And then Mom lived to be, I think she died, I don't know what year it was. I can't. They're all, when we got into 2000, it was easy when it was 19-something, but now with this 20 business, I was thinking, was that 2008?
They all blend together.
Yeah. But anyway, it's been a good life, and I've enjoyed it, and got a lot of good memories. And it's kind of nice that you've done what you're doing to come in and want to hear more about it. because some of the things, and even what I shared with you, there's a lot of it that I've completely forgotten about. It's in there. It's in there, and if I start looking through some pictures, I can remember some other stuff that we did and all that. So.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. And,
well, I'm glad we could do it. Like I said, I got a lot out of it too. Yeah, and I want to wish you well, and hopefully you'll continue to stumble onto some real good things, some other good groups, and I'll have to. My oldest brother, he sent me a a CD, and about 30 or 40 songs. He said, "I know you'll love this, Don," and of course it was about 20 years ago. And I mean, listen to some of the songs, but I said, how did them guys get on? They're not that good. Yeah, so. But anyway, I've just, it's completely going now. It really is. I like the harmony groups that really, and the other problem I had, my one brother, Kurt, the one that's a year older than me, he always wanted us to learn how to do the steps. You see some of these groups, and they all turn and go this way.
Choreography?
Yeah, see, and I said, no, I will sing, man. I ain't got time to try. You put your right foot out, you got to, then you turn with your left hand. I said, if it just comes to me, I'll do it. But and that's what I do now. I do a lot of singing still at church, and I belong to our little choir, and I don't sing as much as I want to, but used to. But it's demanding. You got to make practices and get there an hour before service starts and all that other business. So anyway, I've enjoyed it. Like I said, having someone come up and pick my brain a little bit. And I wish I could. I'll see if I can find any other pictures I might have. And I might try getting a hold of. The Warren's got a son that lives there in Richmond. I might try to get a hold of him and see if his mother, because his mother's passed also. I was thinking somebody told me his mother, I won't get into that. But I will check and see if I can find more for you.
Perfect, that'd be great.